Life happens. With ADT, you can feel safe with an ADT starter kit professionally installed for only $49. Call today and install an ADT starter kit that includes security panel, keypad, key fob, entry and motion sensors, and for a limited time, get a camera included and installed at no additional cost. That's a $449 value installed for just $49.
Requires 36-month monitoring contrast QSB and easy pay activation. Early term fees may apply. Certain marks excluded. License available at ADT.com. Florida EF001121. UBZ F1639.
Rolling into hour number 3 on Golic and Wingo. Glad you're here with us. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. And all phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. It is amazing to hear the reactions coming out of New York about the benching of Eli Manning, and it's something that has been a real hot topic of conversation since it happened yesterday afternoon. But to hear one of those callers from ESPN 98.7 FM New York radio just say that slick-haired fool, it wasn't just his decision.
No,
There's no way this goes down without it just being Ben McAdoo's
This has
decision.
to be signed off, obviously, all the way at the top, even if it's just ownership saying, you guys run the football show, you do what you think you need to do.
Right.
Because, listen, if anybody above McAdoo didn't want this to happen, it wouldn't be happening.
That's exactly
right.
right.
They had to either sign off on it by either saying, yes, go ahead and do it, or you're running the show so you can do what you want to do. And there's not many people that agree with it. I keep trying to ask from the devil's advocate part of it, and we'll get into it more in a few minutes.
Yep.
From a business standpoint, is it the right thing to do to start to find and look for another quarterback if you feel Eli is not going to be there anymore?
Well, and that's a fair way to look at it, because he is in his 14th season. He'll be 37 in January. But you can't look at Eli and say, yeah, that's the reason why the Giants have struggled.
Without question.
They haven't had an offensive line all year.
Most drop passes this year,
Absolutely.
91 yards on the ground. O-line's been a mess, so you can't put it all on him. Right?
And it was supposed to be Sterling Shepard, Evan Ingram, Brandon Marshall, and Odell Beckham Jr., and now it's maybe Sterling Shepard, Roger Lewis, and Evan Ingram, and whoever else we can find to put out there as a wide receiver. So the things have changed dramatically around Eli Manning. And we'll get into all of that, but first, let's get going with everything you need to know with...
It's time for Off the Top.
Whether you like it or not,
it's just beginning.
With Golic and Wingo.
And we begin off the top with reigning national champion Clemson topping the, Mike's favorite word, penultimate college football rankings as conference champion games are set to be played this weekend. We got Auburn, Oklahoma, and Wisconsin rounding out the top 4, Alabama at 5.
Yeah, that was the interesting thing. Where would Alabama be in Georgia? We both thought they'd be 5 and 6. Ohio State all the way to 8. Miami sitting at number 7. Most people think if Miami beats Clemson, they're going to be in. It's if Ohio State beats Wisconsin, what may happen there between Ohio State and Alabama. So a lot of people want a lot of chaos there. The one thing that is very simple, but you rarely see happen, the top 4 teams win.
Chalk. Yeah.
And if that happens, then it's very easy. Those 4 teams will be in. It's just a matter of what order you want to put them in. If they don't, then that's when the fun begins. So we will see. Sunday will be the big 4-hour show, but there's going to be some excellent, I think, conference championship games, 3 rematches. Georgia and Auburn, a rematch. Auburn destroyed Georgia. TCU, Oklahoma. Oklahoma did the same thing to TCU. And Stanford, USC in the Pac-12. USC, a big winner there. Then you have Ohio State, Wisconsin, Miami, and Clemson in the other 2. So really looking forward to those.
And again, the first thing that jumped off to my eye when I saw it, Ohio State at 8. And how the scenario that would play out for them to somehow jump Alabama, who sits there at 5, should something shake out. Very unusual in the conference championship games. And again, we'll have Clemson head coach Dabo Swinney later, bottom of this hour, to talk about what he sees about the rankings and the game coming up he has against Miami in the ACC championship game. We continue with
Off the Top.
Well, another first for LeBron James, although probably one he didn't want. Ejected for the first time in his career in his 1,082nd game in the win over the Miami Heat.
Yeah, and before that, it was the end of the third quarter. You only had 21 points, 12 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 steals, and a block shot to go with that line.
Is that all?
That's all he had. And ejected, it was a shot where he thought he got fouled. There was no call. He started running back down toward the sideline where the ref was and just jumped right in his grill. Didn't touch him. Looked like he got close. We were all trying to see if he touched him. He did not. Double tech, and he was gone. So there's no doubt there were some magic words thrown at, it would seem, because that's normally what gets you tossed verbally is the magic words, the swear words. When you say them, you call the ref possibly something, or unless the ref is just a little overly sensitive. We don't really know.
Those are the only two possibilities.
Really, those really are. So we'll see if we ever find out which one they were. The only active players who have played more games without being ejected, as Trey said, 1,082 games. Tony Parker, 1,444 games, and Paul Gasol, 1,139 games. They have gone without being ejected. And from the first time LeBron stepped on the court to his ejection last night, Matt Barnes and DeMarcus Cousins have both been thrown out 13 times each.
By the way, who were those two players again? Tony Parker and Pau Gasol?
Tony Parker, Pau Gasol.
You realize they have the benefit. They could probably get away with a swear in a different language. And
probably
the ref may
can't.
not know it.
The referee, what'd you say to me?
Nothing, sir. I said you're the stripes make you look very slimming. You know, so there's a little bit of an advantage there.
Good call
for Gasol and Parker that maybe the rest of the league or some other players in the league like LeBron don't have. Or maybe not. Yeah. We continue.
Off the top.
So the Eli Manning starting era comes to a close, but the Jimmy Garoppolo starting era begins Sunday in San Francisco, or in Chicago, rather, when the 49ers play the Bears.
Yeah, and a couple of things here. C.J. Beathard had been the starter, the rookie from Iowa. He got hurt. He was working through his shoulder, and they hurt his knee and his hip at the end of that game. So there was question whether he could practice much this week. And as Kyle Shanahan, and I agree, said, very difficult for him to get all the reps he needs. You don't want to really split the reps between the two. That's doing a disservice to both. I've always said that. You want a clear-cut number one, and you want them to get, because they get 85 to 90, probably 90% of the number one reps in practice, and that's what you want in that scenario. So I think Garoppolo needed to start. I never understood the thought process of we're going to wait until next year. Why? You know, maybe you're not digesting the entire playbook, but I mean, come on. I mean, You've been there a while. You're digesting some of it. Let's get on the field, see what you could do. And I also am going to remind people to pull the reins, that Jimmy Garoppolo is not a proven quarterback in the NFL. He may do a great job, but every other backup quarterback through the Belichick era that's left New England has never had better than a 500 record in the NFL on their other teams. Garoppolo's played a couple of games and he got hurt. So let's hold off. I think it's great he's going on the field. Let's see what he can do, and let's see if he's going to be the answer for the 49ers.
You know, we've gone through a litany of quarterbacks that the Patriots have drafted thinking, hey, this could be the backup guy or the guy to replace Brady when it's all said and done. Was Brian Hoyer. That hasn't worked out, although he's back there now.
Right.
There was talk that Ryan Mallett, he had the arm, he could make all the throws. None of that worked. And then Matt Castle, when Brady went down in 2008, Game 1 against Kansas City with the torn ACL, he came in there and they won 11 games that year.
Missed the playoffs,
games
but still
and missed
won 11
the playoffs.
games, yeah.
In fact, at that point, he had done something that Brady had never done. I think he threw for 400 yards in back-to-back games in 2008. And so, you know, you see that production in that system with those quarterbacks and under the great coaching that they have there, and sometimes it just doesn't translate going somewhere else. So we'll see what happens for Jimmy G starting this week against the Bears. More NFL news in.
Off the top.
Both Aqib Talib and Michael Crabtree's suspensions reduced from 2 games to 1 after the brawl in Oakland, where Aqib became 2 chains, snacking Crabtree's chain for the second straight year off his neck.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I think one of the reasons in my opinion, they went 2 games, and I thought it would be 2 games, but when you think about it, you give yourself a cushion to still give them a game. If they each just got a game, then there's no cushion. It's either they keep the game or it goes down to no suspension. So, and understand the people looking at these. Remember, John Runyon, former player, former lineman, was the one who sent these guys a letter that was
a strongly worded email.
Pretty stern letter about what had gone on and how displeased they were. And then in the appeals process, which are players that are agreed upon by the union and the league to put in place, former players as well, James Thrash and Derek Brooks. A wide receiver and a linebacker, they both dropped each of those suspensions down to 1 game. So I could see that. I saw that with the cushion, that you could still have them suspended for a game. And so we'll see where it goes from there. They'll miss the game. They missed just about that entire game because it happened 3 minutes into the game. So essentially, they have missed 2 games once they're suspended for the next game. You know my feelings on it. I went off a little bit about it yesterday. You know, let's hope they have their teammates a little more in mind the next time they face one another.
Or if you're Michael Crabtree, according to Adam Schefter, just get stronger tape.
Well, there you go.
Because he did tape the chain to his body.
Amazing.
And still Talib was able to snatch it. So again, that was off the top. And the story that's dominating, being the top story of this day is Eli Manning at 2-9. The Giants announced that his streak will stop at 210 straight consecutive starts by a quarterback, second longest behind only Brett Favre. And it does speak to just how ridiculously reliable and durable Brett Favre was. The Manning brothers are second and third at 210 for Eli, 208 for Peyton. And Brett Favre was there at 297.
297, and the difference, Eli and Peyton were somewhat alike in the fact that they would move a little bit,
right?
But when push came to shove, they hit the deck,
correct?
Right, and they like Tom Brady does. They'll live to fight another day. I get it, all that. Brett Favre, you want to talk about, he's going out there and he'll go take the hit. He'll stay up. He'll try and run. He wasn't a dangerous runner, but he would do it to try and get the yard. So he was in harm's way. Or he put himself in harm's way a little bit more, and dude was just as tough as nails, no doubt about it.
Well, actually, he could run more than a little bit. Darren Woodson, we're getting off topic. I got to tell you the story. Darren Woodson tells a story once they were playing the Packers, and Favre was there, and all week long they were saying, we're going to call this blitz for Darren for you, but when you blitz, make sure you go to the outside. Don't come inside and give him the outside lane to escape. So they call the blitz, and it's a perfect play, and Woodson says, Favre doesn't even see me. So I'm coming. I run the hoop instead of running the inside.
Yep.
And lo and behold, somehow he goes inside and gets outside of
stepped up and went out.
Yes. And Favre spun out. To this day, Darren still doesn't understand how he even saw me. And as he's chasing him down the sidelines, it was like a 25-yard run. It's on the Cowboys sideline, and all the coaches are cussing out. We told you not to do
cussing him out as he's running after him.
As he's tackling him. And so he gets there, and Darren's holding his head down, and Brett Favre's hearing all this, and he turns to Darren Woodson and goes, this white boy can move.
Yeah, that is a great story. The best quarterback I went against that could get out of that, because that's always upfield hip, upfield hip, upfield hip. That's where you rush. Was John Elway.
Yep.
He was one of the best at sensing you, and at the last moment when you thought you had him, he just spun right out of it.
Yeah.
And you would get so frustrated about that. He was really a good athlete.
Yeah, Darren said the worst part was it happened on the sidelines during the play and after the play. It was just constant from all the coaches.
Just brutal.
And the Favre reaction was just great. So anyway, that's how durable and interesting Brett Favre was. But Eli's streak comes to the end at 210.
Right.
He will not start this Sunday. Now, I want you to listen to this is how Eli reacted to the news. And if you're watching it on ESPN2, make sure you study Eli's face and just how much this hit him.
Coach Mack, called me in, told me, they were going to start splitting some time, and now we're, just kind of thought it's best is give Gino the start, and I'll back him up. I'll be a good teammate. I don't like it, but it's part of football. You handle it, and I do my job. That's hard. It's been a hard day to handle this, but I'll hang in there and figure it out.
Listen, he is about as professional as can be. I'll say again, when I was doing college games, I called games when he was at Ole Miss, so talked to him a bunch in the production meetings and would watch. When I call games, whether college or pro, I like to have binoculars, not so much for on the field. I'll go to the sideline in between series and watch mannerisms, watch conversations and things like that to see what I can glean from that. And I always saw him. He's always been a calm leader. He would just go over and make sure he got in front of the people he wanted to talk to and talk calmly. He wasn't a face mask rattler, never was, and he doesn't have to be. That was always the biggest thing about him that kind of aggravated me about people that said he's got to be a more loud leader. He's got to rattle some cages. No, he doesn't. You lead how you lead. And that's the type of leader he was, and he was a good leader. And especially early on in his career, that team had plenty of those louder leaders, which is the way a Strahan led or a Tiki Barber or other leaders on that team led. A Justin Tuck at times. They were more outgoing than Eli was, and that's fine. There's no one rule that says how you have to lead. And he is handling this in the most professional manner. A lot of people think he was done wrong in this. I don't really understand why they're doing it. Again, from the business sense, you sit there and say, okay, maybe we should look at another quarterback. But for some reason, Trey, it just doesn't seem right. Yeah. It just doesn't seem like this should be the thing to do. And then the way it seemed to be handled so nonchalantly, you're on the bench now, and we move on. Just seems so off, and it really aggravated a whole lot of Eli's former teammates.
Unbelievably so. Everybody, Kurt Warner, David Deal, Sean O'Hara. We had Chris Canty on today, who won a Super Bowl with Eli when they took down the Patriots in Super Bowl 46. They have all just said how upset they were with how it went down. And to Eli's credit, they even said, hey, you can still start, but we're going to play the other guys. And he was like, no, what's the point of starting if I'm not going to have a chance to go out there and win the game? This
Absolutely
isn't a preseason game.
Absolutely right. What a selfless move that is. Huh?
Absolutely. So you mentioned some of his teammates. So one of Eli's former teammates, offensive lineman Jeff Schwartz, who, by the way, does a great job on Twitter breaking down a lot of games from the offensive line perspective, which a lot of people don't really care about, but it's one of the most essential building blocks of the entire game, was on with the Right Time with Bomani Jones and said in sort of a weird way, he believes even how this is unraveling, he doesn't think this has to be the end of Eli's tenure in New York.
So I've been saying for a while that I don't think they should be in the quarterback market. I think Eli can still play, and look, maybe he can't play. The problem is the Giants are so dysfunctional right now. They've been this way all season that we don't really know if Eli can play or not. And I guess the Giants feel he can't play, so with a young guy. But I think a guy like Saquon Barkley would be just a tremendous fit for this offense. He would help them tremendously. They've had trouble running the ball for years now. He would take pressure off Eli. Drafting a quarterback, the Giants might do that. The way the draft is playing out, there could be some teams at the top that don't need quarterbacks. The Niners don't need a quarterback, so it could be a best player available thing. The Giants don't plan on maybe taking a quarterback, and the guy just falls to them, and they have to take him. So it just really depends on what they feel Eli's future is. If they want to keep Eli, they'll probably not draft a quarterback. If he's gone, which we'll know by obviously the draft time, they'll take a quarterback.
I have said this about Eli and this team going forward. I don't know why you would make a change there. I mean, look at what devastatingly has happened to that offense, losing your best player in Odell Beckham. As I said, they've dropped an NFL-high 28 passes. They have rushed for only 91 yards a game. The O-line has had their issues. There's no running game, and your receiver now, Brandon Marshall, I don't know whether he's going to fit and be back. Maybe be another one. Evan Ingram has certainly got some good playing time, and I do like what he can do. But you get Odell back. Maybe you get a Saquon Barkley. You do have to do something with that offensive line. 2 years ago, this defense, when they brought in some of the draft picks and the free agents, they hit it pretty well. This year, not doing it so much. Hopefully, they can get back to some of that. But I think it's a team that's still ready to hit the ground and keep running, and I'm sure they would like to be running. So I don't know why, in my opinion, at this point, the stats aren't great. 62%, 2,400 yards, 14 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. But they're not brutal. He still has twice as many touchdowns as interceptions. It's exactly right, and it's a team that's just underachieving and has lost a lot of players with injury. So I'm not sure why they would make this move. And to Jeff Schwartz's point, maybe they won't. Maybe they still will keep Eli. But the first thing you have to wonder is who's going to be back. Is McAdoo the coach going to be back? Is Reese the GM going to be back?
It sure doesn't feel like any of that is.
And then, but if that's not going to happen, then shouldn't it be up to the new regime then to decide what are we going to do with Eli Manning? Because that'll be interesting. Because if ownership needs to hire a new GM, which the GM was going to hire a new coach, then there has to be a discussion on what are we going to be doing with Eli Manning.
Yeah, and you look at the contract numbers for next year, his cap hit would be over $22 million. You look at the contract, the way it broke down, it started in 2015. It was $14 million in 2015, $24 million in 2016. This year it's $19, and the last 2 years of the deal, it goes up to $22 million rather, and $23 million. So that's something that they're also factoring into this when you're talking about a guy that'll be 37 in January.
Right.
Dollars do become a part of this.
Yeah. So if they wanted to get rid of him, this year it would be $12 million in dead money. Next year it would be a little over $6 million in dead money. Yep. So that's all the stuff you have to take into consideration. Plus the fact that you still think this guy with a bit of a running game and the weapons back can still be your quarterback. I certainly do, because we said this about Romo for years when everybody wanted Romo out. It was like, okay, well, who are you getting?
Right.
And I guess maybe that's to New York's point. Well, maybe we want to see who we're getting. Is it going to be Geno Smith? Who, again, this will be his 34th start, so you do have a bit of a resume. You haven't seen what Webb can do yet, so maybe you want to see that. So I don't know. If push comes to shove, I would be like, let's get this team healthy again. Let's get this offense back on track, and Eli's the quarterback.
Again, we'll see how that plays out going forward and what happens. But, again, we know this much, that Eli Manning will not start. The streak is over at 210 games this Sunday when they take on the Raiders. So that streak is ending. A new era perhaps maybe beginning again Thursday?
Possibly.
When Tiger Woods returns to the course for the first time since February 2nd when he tees it up in his basically it's a glorified pro-am.
Right.
Or glorified member guest.
There's only 18
it's
players,
his,
right?
It's his event,
Mm-hmm.
basically. But, obviously it's a big deal. And you just wonder, with everything that we've seen from Tiger and these attempts to come back and get back into shape. I think 2013 he won 5 times. That was the last time he sort of was dominant in any way, shape, or form. And he's had so many injuries. And this is a guy, who's on the other side of 40 now. And you wonder what will we see and what may be his last real attempt to come back and become an active participant and a competitive participant in professional golf.
Since the start of 2014, he's played 19 official PGA Tour events. He's played all 72 holes in less than half of them.
That's crazy.
Missing the cut or withdrawing on 10 of those occasions. So I'm with you, and I think where we are now is the first couple of times he came back, we were like, Tiger's back.
Right.
Tiger's back. Tiger's back.
Yeah.
Is Tiger back?
Eldrick might be the guy that's back now.
So now everybody's kind of, okay, let's see. Everybody says he looks good, but we have to keep it all in perspective on what he can actually do on the course. So I don't think there's as much, Tiger's back, as to let's just wait and see if Tiger can finish the tournament.
Yeah, look, it's been a boatload of injuries and other things that obviously that have derailed his career. But I will say this, in the years that I've been here, I've never seen an athlete be more dominant in any sport to me than the way Tiger was in a sport that is almost impossible to dominate.
Yeah.
And as we go forward, we'll talk a lot about this on Thursday as he comes back for the Hero World Challenge. I'd love to hear from you guys. Who's the most dominant athlete you've ever seen that you thought, how is this guy doing this constantly, time and time again? You can hit us up on the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. I'd like to hear that. I'd like to hear what people think about that.
We're at Golic and Wingo on Twitter. He's at obviously at what's your Wingo's
WNGOZ.
Wingo's, and I'm at ESPN Golic. Yeah, who's the most dominant?
Yeah.
Obviously, when I say it this way, you'll know the other person I'm talking about, guy or girl.
Yeah.
Because
Serena.
Oh, my
absolutely.
Gosh. Absolutely.
So we'd love to hear from you on that, and we'll get to those tweets later on this hour. But coming up, Dabo Swinney, the head coach of the defending national champion Clemson Tigers, is right back where they were when they finished a year ago. They're atop the college football playoff rankings. There's still one more ranking to go, and we'll hear what he has to say about that in the ACC championship game.
Computer, execute 12.4p operation.
Optimizing algorithm. Running encryption packet alpha 9. Oh, I don't feel so good.
What is it, computer?
Is it hot in here? It feels hot in here. I feel a little clammy. I should lie down or something.
A computer with a virus? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Those oysters Rockefeller were a mistake.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
We roll on here on this Wednesday. A reminder that tomorrow at this time, ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter will join us, and all our phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And we are delighted now to be joined on that Shell Pennzoil Performance Line by the head coach of the defending national champion Clemson Tigers and the team number 1 in the poll in the latest rankings that came out. Dabo Swinney is with us. Dabo, good morning, and thanks for being with us.
Good morning. Good to be with you guys. Congrats on the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We're 3 days in, and they're still letting us on the air.
There you go.
I think we're doing something okay. Dabo, what did it mean for you as the defending champs in college football to come out and have that number 1 ranking going into what is going to be a huge weekend, conference championship weekend?
It was great. I mean, this time of year, I always tell people early part of the year, it just doesn't matter. I mean, but this time of year, it's when it matters because the regular season is over and we're all focused on postseason now, and you want to have the best, finish that you possibly can have, and that's whether you're in the Final Four or you're 10th or 15th or 20th, whatever. And so I think that for us, it's just a reflection that we've had a really good year. It's a credit to the players and a lot of hard work put in, and so we're excited to be in the hunt. But we want to be number 1 on Sunday. That's when we know that all the games have been played, and right now we're 4 quarters away from that, and going to be a big challenge. Miami wants the same thing that we want, and that's the opportunity.
Along those lines, I really think coaches have it in their DNA to understand the gravity of the situation, keep focused on the game at hand, the task at hand, not let anything get too big. But 18 to 22-year-olds are a little different than that, as you well know, Coach. So how do you keep them? Now, they certainly have the experience of being in title games and winning championships, but it's still another big game that can set them up. So how do you deal with them in this era of social media and what they read and what they talk about as opposed to what's in a coach's DNA?
Yeah, well, I mean, to be honest with you, I think that probably helps us just because, it's every week. I mean, it's the biggest game of the year every single week. We say that as coaches all the time, but with the help of social media, it is the biggest game of the year every week because, we just played our state championship last week. We had Florida State. I mean, in any of those games, if you lose those games, then you kind of fall out of that playoff hunt. And so we've been in a playoff mode around here since the 1st of November. And so it's just kind of another week for us. It's the next step. I think the leadership of our team has done a great job. And, these guys are focused. I mean, they understand that it's just football and what you have to do to win football games. And you guys, especially when you're playing against a really good team like Miami. So that's what our focus is. We don't have any illusions that, are sitting around worrying about, we're number one, let's have a party today. No, we're focused on trying to find a way to win this game, I promise you. And so is Miami, so it's just a matter of finishing the way we all want to finish. That's what's most important at this point. But we've got a good focus with our leadership.
Well, Dabo, one thing you're going to have to focus on when playing Miami is avoiding those turnovers because they love to break out that chain. And we've seen them turn a lot of close games around just on those turnovers. Look, I know that's something you probably preach to the players every week, but with such an emphasis that Miami's defense has put on this, are you sort of reinforcing that notion going into this game?
Well, every week we kind of have a daily focus every day, and actually yesterday was our turnover Tuesday, if you will. We talk a lot about that every week, how important the turnover margin is, and we study the other team and we look at us, and both these teams we've scored 77 points off of turnovers this year. They've scored 72 points off of turnovers this year. So both teams have been opportunistic. I think we've had a non-offensive touchdown in every road game that we've had this year. So, I think both teams have done a good job with that, and that certainly will probably be the difference in the game Saturday night is the turnover margin and probably a couple big plays. That's usually what it comes down to in championship football. But they've had an unbelievable year for sure, and I hope we can keep that chain in that box or whatever they carried in. That's for sure.
Yeah, you don't want to see it come out because Golic had to wear it after the Notre Dame game, and it was depressing for everybody.
It was awful.
Yeah, I watched that tape. It was depressing to watch it. Watching the coach's tape. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was just as depressing watching it on TV as well as an alumni and former player, believe me. We're talking to Dabo Swinney, head coach at Clemson, as they get ready to take on Miami in the ACC championship game and all the conference championship games this weekend. And what's interesting for players and coaches, you play a game and then everybody waits for 13 human beings in a room to decide things. So along those lines of criteria in your mind, how important is a conference championship and what should it mean in that process?
Oh, I think it's hugely important. I think you have to evaluate it every year. I don't think you can just say, well, we got to have the conference champion. What if you got 2 7-5 teams playing for the conference championship? So I think you just have to evaluate the big picture of the conference, who they've played, what type of year they've had. Certainly in our case, here in the ACC and the teams that we play week in and week out, and the season we've had, the season Miami's had, I don't see how that if we win or Miami wins, that the ACC champion is not in the playoff. That would be crazy to me. Now that's based on this season and the big picture. But again, I think it's a year-to-year thing. I think some years you might have a 11-1 team playing a 8-4 team, that won the right games and got in the playoff and they somehow win. Well, does that mean they're better than an 11-1 team that maybe didn't make it because they got beat by a 12-0 team? Probably not. So I just think that's why they got, people sitting around trying to speak some common sense and rationale in the air and come up with the best 4 teams. And, to this point, I think they've pretty much gotten it right, in the past few years. So I think it's been a good system for everyone, and it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out for sure this year.
Clemson's Dabo Swinney with us on Golic and Wingo. One of the hardest things to do in any sport is repeat as champions. And I know there are several other games before you're going to have that opportunity. But even in the NFL, as Golic can attest to playing, and I'm covering the NFL for so many years, to keep those players focused and on the task at hand and not seeing the big picture or looking 2 or 3 games ahead. And these are guys that are 25, 26, even in their 30s, keeping them going. It's got to be that much more difficult for you, Dabo, talking to 19 and 20-year-olds. How have you been able to keep them focused on realizing that to get to where you want to go, you have to take it one step at a time?
Yeah, and it definitely is a challenge, especially in college, because as you said there, but you get so much turnover. You develop strong leaders, and then they leave. They're gone. And so any given, like this year, we only have 6 seniors on our whole roster. So we're a really young team. We've got a good, strong junior class, but we're mostly freshmen and sophomores. And so I think the biggest thing is for us, we won 81 games in the last 7 years. And only Alabama's won more. And I think with that comes a mentality that it takes, a mindset. And so for me, it's nurturing that every year. And the way I do that is I start over every single year. I don't assume anything. I literally start over everything that we do, evaluate everything, reinstall the program from scratch, A to Z, all of our core values, and not just, hey, this is what we do, but more importantly, this is why we do it, and create the buy-in. And that starts in January. It's a new journey, and you have to create that buy-in and be able to articulate that vision each and every year for a new team. And because it is a new team, new journey, new challenges, new leadership. You look at our team this year. Oh my goodness, we lost a lot of people off of offense, and so it's also making sure the guys who aren't playing this year, for example, that we're doing a great job in teaching them and keeping those red shirts engaged and developing those guys that nobody see in play right now, making sure that we play guys when we get the opportunity, how we rep people in practice. Because in college, again, guys are leaving. And so, you want to have guys ready to step up. And it's not just physically, it's mentally too. And you have to have a certain mindset to be able to win consistently. That is the biggest challenge. And probably the thing that I'm most proud of is, I'm so happy we won the national championship. That's great, but that's so hard to do. Everything's got to go right. My goal has always been to just have a consistent program that year in and year out is in the hunt, and that takes a lot of buy-in. It takes the right culture, and so for me, that's what I focus on every single day, is making sure that we've got the mindset right. That's with our staff. That's with everybody in the building, and certainly our players.
Well, you've certainly established that, and we see you as the number 1 team going into conference championship weekend. We're looking forward to seeing that game, Clemson-Miami, Saturday at 7 Eastern on ESPN Radio and 8 o'clock on ABC. Dabo, we appreciate the time. Thanks so much. Best of luck this weekend and potentially beyond.
Thanks, Coach.
I appreciate it, guys. Good luck to y'all.
Thank you.
Okay, so you got your news of the
Here's
weird.
your news of the weird with Golic and Wingo.
Here's your choice.
Okay.
It's either a story, scientists are calling for a ban on something worldwide, or there are new classes being taken at Turkish universities that involve things otherworldly.
Ooh, otherworldly.
Yeah.
I like that.
So which one do you want?
Otherworldly.
You want otherworldly?
Yeah, let's go really out there.
Turkish universities launch it's UFOLOGY, 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 UFOlogy,
unidentified flying objects.
I don't know. UFOlogy and exopolitics.
Okay.
Basically, it is that they say we believe representatives from the world and extraterrestrial civilizations will soon be making official contact with each other. We think they will be in an open and mass contact. So they're having classes on how you should deal with that.
So let me get this straight.
Go ahead.
It hasn't happened yet.
No.
They think it's going to happen.
Right.
They have in no way, shape, or form any idea of what shape or form these people, aliens from beings from other planets
exactly
are going to be, look like, or communicate with us.
Right.
And they're preparing for that.
With a class.
How do you prepare for that?
I don't know. That's exactly why this is news of the word. That first day in class, where do you start? What do you do?
Kids, there may be people on other things on other planets.
You
and
don't
they may
even
be
know
coming here.
how they're going to communicate. Are they going to say hi, or are they going to go "Hee-haw"? And
wait.
Yeah.
How are they going to go?
Hee-haw.
So
they're going to be donkeys.
Yeah. Can I just hope one thing? This class has got to be pass-fail, right?
You would think so.
It's got to be
grading
pass-fail.
it? Wow.
It can't be a grade because you're grading it on what?
I don't know. So there's classes about possible communication, and then the other part of that is exopolitics. Exopolitics is a new curriculum, new class that's going to address focuses on sources of information and methodology, the history of cover-up of knowledge on extraterrestrial beings, preparations to open contact, and galactic diplomacy. Again, how are you figuring out the diplomacy, galactic diplomacy, when you have no idea what you're dealing with?
Can we just start with Area 51? Can we just that Area 51 and let's just start there. That's going to be the first.
Can I just say though, I would go in this class. There's no way they can fail you.
Yeah, there's no way to prove your answers are wrong.
Exactly right.
This is the class I needed in college.
You're not kidding.
All right, we got two former Jets coaches coming up in the next hour to talk about very different subjects. Rex Ryan and Herm Edwards. That's coming up. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Space.